across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, it is Petrie and it is fantastic to have your company. I'm with you until 1 o'clock, and coming up at midnight, of course, it is your chance to talk back. So what I want you to do is to give me a call. Now, the conversation I want to have with you at midnight, as a change here, is different from what I'm going to be doing in a moment. I want to talk to you about the record number of Brits that are moving abroad, and that the numbers are actually really quite high. It was predicted to be around 77,000 people, but the number is actually 257,000 people that have moved abroad, Brits that have left the country. So I want to know from you, have you decided to leave the country? And if so, why? Have you already moved? Are you already living in a foreign country? I know we've got a lot of listeners from across the world. So did you decide to leave, and why did you decide to leave? Or are you thinking that you would very much like to leave the UK? Would you like to go? And you're just waiting for the opportunity. And if you do want to leave, where exactly do you want to go to? So that's what I want to talk about at midnight, is why all of these Brits are moving abroad. So please do give me a ring. The number you're going to need is 0344 499 1000, and you can text the word talk and your message to 87222. Just to let you know what else is coming up, we have Cody Darla, comedy writer and host of the Truth in My Opinion podcast. He's here already. We've had a little chat, and he'll be in the studio in about 25 minutes time to go through the newspapers for Wednesday. But I want to talk to you about the European Convention on Human Rights and the European Court of Human Rights, because there's been a lot of talk recently about us leaving this institution. A lot of people, because it's got the word Europe in it, think that we are being controlled by Europe on this. It is actually an independent body set up by Winston Churchill. He was one of the founders of it after the Second World War, to maintain human rights, to make sure that governments couldn't walk all over their own people, that they couldn't do what had been done that predicated the Second World War and the First World War. The Human Rights Act is a very thin document. It's very in terms of the depth of it, it's really, really small, and in terms of the importance of it, it's really, really small. I often say it could be written on the back of a fag packet. In fact, if you're watching, this is it. This pretty much is one sheet of paper with all the points on it that make up the Human Rights Act. So it is a tiny little document to be causing such a lot of fuss. But there is a lot of fuss about this. There are many countries, 9 in fact, across Europe. We've got 46 signatories to the human rights, the Convention on Human Rights, and the court, the European Court. 46 signatures across Europe. 9 of those have said that this institution is no longer fit for purpose, that actually it needs to be reformed, it needs to change, and it needs to reflect better what is happening in terms of migration. And so many countries are saying that this needs to, it's not just Britain it's saying this. Keir Starmer has said, as an ex-human rights lawyer, he will never leave the European Human Rights Convention courts. It is very, very complicated. We do have a professor of human rights and international law that we're going to be speaking to sorry, say again? Okay. We will be talking to a professor of human rights at the International Law at Birkbeck College, University of London, hopefully in a little while. Having a bit of trouble getting hold of him. But a lot of people think that this institution based in Strasbourg is what's blocking us, that is stopping us from deporting people. It is, and that's all it's good for, is just preventing us from doing what we want to do. But it is more important than that. And I think it's important that we realise, before there is any suggestion that we completely cut ties with this court, that we understand how important it is and how entrenched it is, in fact, in the Good Friday Agreement. If we lift, anyway, it is extremely complicated. But let's talk now to Phil Armitage, who is a lawyer at the human rights charity Justice, and hopefully he can talk us through why this matters to you, why it isn't all negative and blocking what this country wants to do with migrants that they want to deport. Phil, a very good evening to you.
Good evening.
A lot of talk at the moment about how this is an institution we should immediately leave, that we need to cut ties with it completely. Many people saying, well, we'll be throwing the baby out with the bathwater if we do that. But nobody really understands what this court does and what it could potentially do for me as a British citizen. So I just wanted people to kind of figure out what it is that we might be losing if indeed we cut ties with it. So talk to me about your work.
Hi, Petrie. Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to talk about this. The Human Rights Act and the European Convention on Human Rights are really important, and they protect your listeners and ordinary people across the UK every day. And whilst some of these cases may not get in the headlines, they protect elderly care home residents who want to be able to see their partner. It allows victims of serious crime to be able to hold the police accountable if they carry out poor quality investigations. It protects mental health patients who may be poorly treated and where negligent treatment kind of may lead to kind of impact on their life. So this is something that whilst you may not always notice it or hear about these cases, it's something that has a big factor in making sure that our public services are accountable and that they take our interests of our rights, so be that the NHS, care home, police, prisons, all these various state institutions. There's a basic standard that they have to meet, and if they don't meet that, then your listeners or anyone out there can hold those services accountable.
Well, a lot of people would say, yes, but it's usurping the British courts. You know, British court will make a decision, and then we hear time and time again that it's then taken to the higher court, that it's taken to Strasbourg. And people are saying, well, it shouldn't do that. You know, if the sovereign decision is that something should happen, then that's a British court making that decision, and it should happen. So why is it then that we're allowing this other layer of law, if you like, to as people would put it, dictate to us, although we don't have to take their judgments? But why are we allowing this to happen? Many people will be questioning that.
Yeah, I understand that. I mean, I guess the first point to make is that what the Human Rights Act itself does is allow British courts to make these decisions, and the overwhelming amount of human rights decisions against the government are made in British courts by judges across the land up to the UK Supreme Court. The UK very rarely loses a case in the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. I think it only lost one case last year, and that was a case brought by the Mail Group newspaper. So these are quite unusual instances, though it's worth saying that on the kind of occasional time when the European Court of Human Rights has ruled against the UK, there have been important rights that have been come about from that. For example, the ban on LGBT people serving in the armed forces was lifted following a European Court of Human Rights case. So, yeah, the main point is that the Human Rights Act brings these rights home and allows people to bring them in British courts, and in the vast majority of cases, that's where these claims are dealt with.
So if we were to if we were to cut ties with the European Court, the Human Rights Court, would that immediately mean us ripping up the Human Rights Act? Or could we retain that and just have it overseen by British courts?
Well, I think most of the people who are opposed to the European Convention on Human Rights are also opposed to the Human Rights Act. So the kind of direction of travel from those who are opposed to it tend to be opposed to the Human Rights Act as well, and want to reduce human rights protections in the UK. There are a few reasons why you might not want to leave the European Court of Human Rights as well. It's part of being a signatory to the European Convention, which it means that we get to be a member of the Council of Europe, which is a kind of cross-European body, not part of the EU, but that allows us to kind of cooperate with other European countries on issues such as international crime, trafficking, that kind of issue. And also it's worth saying that the EU Trade and Cooperation Agreement, which was our deal on when we left the EU, allows the EU to rip up the police cooperation between us, so to deal with issues like cross-border crime. And the EU has the right to suspend that part of the agreement if we leave the European Convention on Human Rights. And you also mentioned the Good Friday Agreement, and it's part of the reason for the Good Friday Agreement. One of the reasons that the European Convention on Human Rights underpins that is because it then gave the rise to the potential right to go to the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, which was viewed as kind of an independent arbiter to kind of deal with some of those issues, and so that's a key factor to that. And so there would be complications for the Good Friday Agreement if we were to leave the ECHR, even if we kept some kind of domestic Bill of Rights.
I was just going to come to that, the domestic Bill of Rights. We keep hearing about this. Do you trust any government in isolation in one country to come up with a Bill of Rights that would serve us well?
Well, the way that the public discourse around this tends to be is that those who are kind of proposing a so-called British Bill of Rights are doing so to reduce domestic human rights protections. And the Bill of Rights bill that was proposed by the last government would have done exactly that and would have reduced what are called positive obligations. But those are the obligations on the police that I mentioned to protect victims of crime, is actually how the victims of John Warboys, the black cab rapist, I don't know if you remember that case, but those victims used the Human Rights Act and positive obligations to hold the Metropolitan Police accountable. So it's those kind of issues. Victims of the Rochdale grooming gangs use positive obligations in the European Convention on Human Rights to get an apology and damages from Greater Manchester Police. So whenever this kind of suggestion is made, it seems to be talking about reducing kind of domestic human rights protections. We already have, in effect, a Bill of Rights. It's the Human Rights Act, and the vast majority of those cases are dealt with by British judges in British courts in that context.
Yeah, because a lot of people would say, well, all we hear about this is that we should be out of it, like what happened with Brexit, right? Yeah. What would be your fear if this were to happen?
I think the main thing is that the kind of a human rights culture within various public institutions has made public authorities better, and it's made them more accountable to the people that use them, like whether you're using that in the NHS or whether, as I said, there's the police, or whether you're an elderly resident in a care home. These are all better knowing that you know that public authority has to respect your basic rights, has to make sure that you have family rights, so you can be in the same care home as your partner, for example, or make sure that you're not released if you're unstable to be released if you're a mental health patient. These are the kind of everyday examples that we would lose if we got rid of some of this protection. And I think we should be careful maybe not to throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Good to talk to you, Phil. Thank you very much indeed. Phil Armitage there, lawyer at the human rights charity Justice. Well, we do have our professor now, Bill Bowring, who is Professor of Human Rights and International Law at the Birkbeck College, University of London. He's also the President of the European Lawyers for Democracy and Human Rights. Bill, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Lots of talk at the moment about we should leave the European Convention, the European Court in Strasbourg, that we'll all be better off for it. First of all, why are we hearing that? And second of all, is that any of that true?
So I did hear your previous speaker from Justice, and I am also a barrister, and I've taken many cases over the years since the early 90s to the European Court of Human Rights at Strasbourg, though those have been cases primarily against Turkey and, until it was expelled, Russia. So I haven't been taking cases against the United Kingdom. And 2 points I would be inclined to make. First of all, that ironically, the European Convention on Human Rights was a conservative project of Winston Churchill after the Second World War, and drafted by conservative lawyers. And in point of fact, Britain was one of the founders. And since we enacted the Human Rights Act and it came into force in the year 2000, very few successful cases have been brought against the United Kingdom. It's very far down, so this idea that somehow the Strasbourg court is preventing justice from being done in British courts, I think is missing the point, as a matter of fact. And of course, the Human Rights Act itself does require English judges to have pay regard to the European Convention on Human Rights. But of course, it was a treaty that we ratified a long time previously. And the problem was, before the year 2000, was that somebody who believed that their human rights had been violated had to go all the way through the British courts and then to Strasbourg. So it would be maybe 10 years after the event. After the year 2000, actually, very few successful cases against the United Kingdom.
But then why are we hearing so much about how they're blocking us, how they're responsible for us not being able to deport people, all the common zeitgeist that's around at the moment? Because what I've been learning, and what I've known myself, is just how valuable this institution is to me as a British citizen, and how emphatically brilliant the Human Rights Act is, for all of its flimsiness. I don't disagree with any of it. So why is this at the moment the popular Brexit, if you like?
I think it's a red herring, and I think it's particularly ironical when the strongest criticisms come from people from the political party which actually founded the thing. So the European Convention on Human Rights is actually a very, in many ways, old-fashioned and conservative document. And the court in Strasbourg is a court with judges, but highly rated judges from all of the member states of the Council of Europe, including a United Kingdom judge. And as a matter of fact, of course, the law has developed over the years. But I think one can say that in cases which have been decided against the United Kingdom, for example, the Sunday Times case, the thalidomide case, there have been a number of cases over the years which have changed United Kingdom law for the better.
I certainly know.
Sorry. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I certainly know that the deep cut barracks suicides would never have got the coverage or the police concern and investigation that it got without it first of all going to Strasbourg, and then they were saying, look, the police have got to look into this better. Basically, they were told to look into it. Because I remember interviewing one of the fathers of one of the so-called suicide victims, and he was very, very grateful that he had that extra layer of protection, if you like, because the British courts weren't doing anything, the British police weren't doing anything. If we lost it, how bad would it be for the individual British citizen, those who are being told that this should be got rid of?
Well, I think, first of all, most English judges, or all English judges, say that the principles in the Human Rights Act, and indeed in the European Convention, are principles which, if you look, are already part of English law. So it makes them more formal, and it means that the judges are now required to take into account of course, the provisions of the Convention and the case law. So I do think that coming out of it, of course, to me, having taken cases for quite a few years against Russia in particular, till they were expelled because of the war against Ukraine, it would put us in such bad company, for heaven's sake. I mean, and so not only the irony that this was a conservative project and the brainchild of Winston Churchill, and why did he do it, actually? It was because of the Labour victory in 1945. And so during the period between 45 and 51, when the Conservatives came back to power under Winston Churchill, his idea of the European Convention and the Court of Human Rights was, first of all, solidarity against the Soviet Union, so the original 10 countries that were in the convention. And secondly, his idea was to stop socialism from recurring in Britain.
Yeah.
And mostly, the judgments of the European Court of Human Rights are, as I said already, pretty conservative. And I think to put ourselves into the company of Russia and Belarus does not look good in any case. And I think it would give the impression that might well lead to actually a retrogression and falling back in the achievements of English law so far.
The thing is that there's two particular articles that again we keep being told about, and that is Article 8, which is right to a family life and to get married, I believe, and Article 3, which is protection against torture and inhuman treatment. Is that right?
So it's against torture and inhuman and degrading treatment.
Right. Okay, so that's Article 3. Those are the two articles that seem to be causing the most angst, and it is believed that migrants are using those against us, if you like, and the court has even said, look, we're willing to update, we're willing to have a conversation about these, because a lot of people are saying those two articles particularly are not fit for purpose anymore. Would you agree with that? Does this need updating since it's been around for 75 years, that maybe it is time to look at it in the reflection of a modern society?
Well, first of all, I think with Article 3, that is prohibition of torture and inhuman and degrading treatment, there is actually a United Nations treaty, which we have also ratified. So unless we're planning to leave the United Nations, perhaps we are.
Yeah.
I mean, there are countries in the world which find the United Nations to be a huge nuisance, as we know, with present events going on as we speak. But I don't think Britain really wants to leave the United Nations, as a matter of fact, or to get out of the United Nations Treaty for the Prevention of Torture. Article 8 requires the state to have respect for family life and communication. And I would sincerely hope that that's something which we as a country would want to do. And so the cases which have been decided against us are cases, for example, under Article 8, the very famous Malone case earlier on telephone tapping, where Britain was actually held to be in violation of the convention because we had no law prescribing when telephone tapping might be allowed. And so we had to change the law. I don't think that was a terrible thing. And as I say, there have been very few cases, as a matter of fact, where the United Kingdom was lost. That's because we have an independent judiciary, and the independent judiciary do scrutinise pretty carefully the cases that come in front of them, particularly where it concerns right to respect for family life, communication and so on, and in particular, the Article 3 rights. And just to make the point, many of the cases which I acted for applicants in against Russia were about torture and inhuman and degrading treatments in Russian prisons. Actually, there have been practically no cases against Britain. And we have problems with our prison system, but I think it is respected in Strasbourg and elsewhere that when people have serious complaints, those complaints are dealt with in our own courts.
It is a fascinating time, and I wish I could speak to you for very much longer, Professor, but thank you very much indeed for joining me. Bill Burring there, who's Professor of Human Rights and International Law at Birkbeck College, University of London. I find this whole thing really, really interesting. I hope you did as well. Quick break, and Cody will be here in the blink of an eye.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you, and I am with you all the way until 1 o'clock. And with me until midnight is Cody Darla.
Hello.
Which I'm really pleased about. I always love seeing your little face. It's Cody Darla. I better give you your full title, hadn't I, because you're quite important. Comedy writer and host of the Truth in My Opinion podcast.
Yes.
And he's very funny and he's very good. Now, unusually, I'm not going to ask you about the European... Well, I can, actually, the European Court of Human Rights, because that's not what I'm talking about in the phone-in, so I'll come to that in a moment. I found that really, really interesting, because this feels a bit like Brexit again, when we're being told it's really bad, we need to get out, but nobody's saying, actually, these are the good things, but nobody told us about the good things in Europe, right? And that feels very similar now. That we're being told all the bad stuff about the European courts.
I agree. And also people who want to take us out, I think, need to set out in detail how leaving will aid what they say it will. Because this is you're exactly right to draw the analysis, the comparison with Brexit, 'cause that's exactly what people didn't do. They just said, we'll leave and everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
They never gave any information about how things will get better. And like you say, it just feels like another European boogeyman that people just point to. Like
the Strasbourg court stops us. And both of those lawyers stating that we very rarely lose.
Of course.
In Strasbourg.
Yeah,
so it's not like they're blocking us every step of the way.
Exactly, yeah.
But that is very much the narrative at the moment. I do find it really fascinating as well. It's all tied in with the Good Friday Agreement.
Of course,
and it's all tied in with the United Nations. It would be very, very complicated just to cut ties.
Yes.
Anyway, coming on to my phone-in, the talkback section of this programme, a record number of Brits are moving abroad. 257,000 emigrated last year. They're blaming Labour and they're blaming Starmer for this. Yeah. This is far more than the predicted 77,000 people. Do you know anybody who's left the country to go and live somewhere else?
My parents. Yeah.
And they've abandoned us.
Well, as in, I grew up in Cyprus, so I'm an expat. So my parents left to imagine travelling to another country for a better life. Isn't that a crazy idea?
Yeah. I know, who would do that?
Who would do that?
No.
I saw there was a social media, a TikTok thing the other day where it was someone going around asking anyone they came across what their advice would be. If they were younger, they were sort of interviewing slightly older people, they were like, leave the country. They would just leave the country. That was their basic answer. I mean, I don't...
Would you? Do you want to leave Britain? I mean, you like Cyprus. You were brought up there.
Yeah.
I like Cyprus too, by the way. I think it's very lovely.
It's very lovely.
But would you want to live there?
Perhaps not Cyprus, but I'd move to another country. Yeah. But it's not motivated by this. That doesn't mean I hate Britain. I think it's, again, you want different things, don't you? Try different things.
Yeah, I think. Do you know what? I'm a big fan of Billy Connolly. And Billy Connolly once said, travelling narrows the mind. Bear with me on this, because he travelled all the time. And he said that the only thing he wanted to be was at home, because he travelled so much. And I travelled a heck of a lot when I was younger, both for work, and I took a couple of years just backpacking. Yeah. But mostly for work, and I hated it. All I wanted to do was be at home. I don't want to live in another country. I mean, where I would live, Berlin.
Yeah, but it would be your home, wouldn't it? It would become your home.
Yeah, but I love this country. I love being here. Yeah. Because I've travelled so much, and I love being here. And I had the opportunity to settle in Australia. I was offered a job there, a really good job. I just didn't want to. It was fine to be there for a year that I was there, and then travel for the rest of the time. But I didn't want to live there. Yeah. I couldn't imagine myself living anywhere else. I lived in Germany for a while, but I was always going home. Yes. And I loved Berlin. I worked there for many years, but I was always a visitor there. Yeah.
Well, you see, I think a product, because I grew up in a very British setting in Cyprus. Yeah. But I think it means I don't have a kind of...
Were they military?
No. Okay. But I don't necessarily have the emotional connection, the emotional attachment to Britain. Oh, right, even though I feel British. Yeah. And like I say, I went to British school. But I think the nature of growing up in another country means I feel less tied. So perhaps I'm a bad person to ask in terms of reflecting on why British people are leaving Britain.
I'm just really interested as to what people find on the other side.
Well, there's you go to Spain, it's so nice, isn't it? They're so chilled out over there. Or Italy. Everyone's just so, well, they're a bit fascisty, but...
I like Italy.
Yeah,
I like
Italy's
Italy.
Lovely.
I mean, I love all of the countries that I visited, and I particularly love Germany. I've got a real love affair with Germany, particularly with Berlin. I love the German people. They're very funny. They're very self-deprecating. I just really enjoyed their sense of humour. And for me, that's important to me. Yeah. But I just, there's lots of things I love about other countries, but I can't imagine living there.
Yeah, well, on Cyprus, the one thing about the Brits who moved to Cyprus is they make absolutely no effort to integrate whatsoever with the local culture. So it's basically just moving from Britain with rain to Britain with sun.
Yeah, that's not so good.
Not so good.
I don't like. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of migrants who come here are accused of replicating where they came from and ghettoising themselves. And yet, when Brits do that abroad, like you've just described, in Cyprus, that isn't somehow that's not the same thing.
No, those two things are different. Yeah, definitely.
It's so interesting.
Let me tell you as well, the Brits certainly aren't volunteering for any charities over there either.
I find that really interesting. It's a really sort of hypocritical.
It's entirely hypocritical. That's what Brits have always been like. Yeah. Brits abroad, the stereotype is... I mean, like you say, this idea that people have any gripes, Brits have any gripes about people coming over here and not integrating is ludicrous when you observe it. Pick British person at random abroad. Yeah, exactly.
Saudi Arabia. Exactly the same. Exactly the same. Hong Kong was the same as well.
Of course.
Right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go through the papers.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And with me in the studio right now is Cody Darla, comedy writer, and we're going through the papers. Now, The Sun, this is a really interesting story, actually. Kremlin Brits war crimes, in inverted commas. Always watch out for the inverted commas in the press, because obviously he's not been proven to have committed anything, which is what they can do that in the papers. We can't do that on radio or television.
Quotes,
you can't do it. Ex-civil servant who backs Vladimir Putin has become the first Brit to face war crimes charges over the Ukrainian conflict. And what puzzled both you and I was that this is being investigated by the Metropolitan Police's war crimes team over breaches of the Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a war crimes team at the Met.
No, I don't know why it would
sit
with the Met.
They were too busy issuing
either.
speeding fines.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, maybe speeding's a war crime now.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
But this is really interesting, isn't it? That he's being investigated for breaking with the Geneva Convention, mistreating captured prisoners of war and filming pigs eating the remains of Ukrainian soldiers. Sounds like a lovely chap.
Yeah. Very nice.
What a nice...
Another fine example of a Brit abroad.
Yes, there we go. Very true. So there's a probe into him. And actually, it's going to be done through the European Human Rights Courts.
Good.
Which is interesting.
Thank goodness they exist.
Yeah, they will be looking into all of the crimes committed with Ukraine and Russia. Right, the Times newspaper. This was a fascinating meeting again today that only Donald Trump could provide. President Trump hosted the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman hours before the US House of Representatives voted to release the official files relating to Jeffrey Epstein. First of all, let's cover this meeting between Trump and the Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman. Trump exonerated him basically for having any involvement in the murder of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi, who was cut into bits and pieces, don't forget, and put into bin bags.
Yes, and it's been proven that Mohammed bin Salman knew about it and sanctioned it. But he was asked by a journalist in the White House, and I think Trump got annoyed that he took this question as an affront to the dignity of his guest, and in classic Trump fashion ad-libbed and said it was a mistake and he knew nothing about it, even though we know he did. Yeah. But you know, we've all made mistakes. We've all
sanctioned cutting
someone to bits in the Istanbul embassy. Yeah. So yeah, perfectly innocent guy.
Yeah, Trump is really beginning to get really angry with the press that asks him anything other than "How wonderful are you?"
Yeah. Yeah, other than like
he's calling them pigs and idiots.
Piggies.
Piggies, yeah. But what about this, the Epstein file? So it's gone through the House of Representatives, 471 to 1.
Really?
Yeah.
Who was the one?
Well, yeah.
the only one on Trump's Christmas card list.
Yeah. The one is going, oops, I didn't realise. But it's also, I've just heard, gone through the Senate.
Excellent.
So now it ends up on Trump's desk.
And he has to sign it.
But the thing is, I was talking to lawyers yesterday about this, and he could do this at any point. It didn't have to go through Congress.
Yes,
it didn't have to go through the Senate. It didn't have to go through any of these stages. He could have just signed it off himself at any point. So when it comes onto his desk, he's going to have to sign this now.
Yeah. We wait with bated breath. When will it land, do you think? Tomorrow morning?
I mean, there's no reason why it shouldn't, and there's no reason why they shouldn't be pretty much released immediately, apart from those that will be held back that are potentially lawsuits in the making.
I see. So it still won't be all of them?
No.
Okay. I think it'll take Trump a good few hours to sift through the ones that mention him, won't it?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how much they've been redacted. I don't trust the head of the FBI, Kash Patel. I don't No, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what comes out and what doesn't come out. Children born in the UK to refugee parents will face deportation under Shabana Mahmood's crackdown. The Home Office has confirmed. Officials said children would be required to leave the country with their parents if their refugee status was revoked. This is to ensure that there are no perverse incentives for refugees to have children in the UK on the basis that they can stay.
Yeah, I wonder how many times that has happened. If there is any evidence whatsoever that asylum seekers are having children in order to stay in the UK.
Well, some of them bring children over very dangerously because they think it will help them stay. But I mean, if you've got to wait 20 years to make your claim, the chances are you will have had children who will have never known anything but being in Britain.
Yeah, no, I think it's a
it's a legal nightmare for them. It's never going to happen, I don't think.
I mean, this whole new asylum immigration rehaul, I think, is just is a real low point for the country. What a nasty little island we're becoming. We don't have the balls to tax the wealthy, the wealthiest in society, but we go after the asylum seekers. It's crazy. The vast majority of which are legitimate asylum seekers. We're punishing an entire group of vulnerable people based on this fictional idea that people are coming to the UK and they're taking the piss, that they're not real asylum seekers. I think it's absolutely atrocious and like utterly shameful for a Labour government.
Do you not think there is a problem with the sheer numbers that are coming?
Yeah, there's a problem with the people smugglers. The government has absolutely, in no way, shape or form, exhausted the avenue of actually bringing the people who are forcing these people on small boats in the Channel to any form of justice. They've done nothing about the licensing of small boats, which would allow the French authorities to track where these boats are coming from. The current law says that they can only act when the boat is in the water, which then by that time it's filled with people, and it's incredibly vulnerable. And then maritime law kicks in, and they're not allowed to
scupper the boats.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it's. Again, there is an issue only in the sense that people are risking their lives crossing the Channel.
Would you agree that those people who have no right to be here should be removed?
Yeah, absolutely, if they don't have a right. But I don't accept the characterisation, which I think is what's widely held, that the vast majority of these people have no right to be here. I don't think that's true. The vast majority of people's asylum claims are...
For example, we've got a large number of Vietnamese people. That's not talked about very much, but there's a huge number of Vietnamese people coming over here on boats who have no right to remain here. Yeah. You have Albanians also coming either by aircraft, actually, or by boat, who have no right to be here. So that a lot of people would say, if they're legitimate claimants, we don't have a problem with that.
I think yes. I think there aren't actually, but I think I accept the premise of the question. I think lots of people don't want anyone to come across to the UK.
You could be right.
But yeah, like for example,
anybody who comes here that does not have isn't fleeing a war-torn country, isn't fleeing persecution for their sexual orientation or whatever it might be, then they should be removed.
Yes, but yes. Yes, on principle, but the demonisation of that individual and this kind of idea that it's only their fault that they're in the country. People from Vietnam, there is such a vast network of people smugglers across the country. People are genuinely trafficked and get dragged into
slave labour.
Exactly, slave labour, and dragged into the kind of dark economy, be that drugs or slave labour in other forms. I mean, there was an article just last week about asylum children going missing. The number of children that come into the UK and are housed in hotels or other kind of institutions that have gone missing because they are being trafficked. They are there partly because of these networks that already exist in Britain, the sort of shadow economy in these criminal networks, and they are exploited. So where I disagree with the framing of this entire debate is around the vilification of those individuals. It's this idea that they have come to the UK to take advantage of our charity. And I don't think that is an accurate representation of asylum seekers and refugees. I think I think it'd be hard to come up with a number, but I just think that characterisation of someone coming to Britain and really wanting to get as much money out of the British taxpayer as possible, I would almost wager it doesn't exist.
But what about the fact that a lot of people say, yeah, that's all well and good, but these are all, young men that are coming over. They're not being trafficked. They're coming over, and they are actually having to repay these smugglers by working in cannabis factories and some of them, and they do disappear as well.
Yes.
But there will be people who say, look, they're all young men. They're all fit. They're all young.
Yeah.
That is not the image of somebody who's being trafficked for slavery.
Sure, but I think that betrays again an ignorance of just the history of migration. For decades, for as long as migration has existed, especially in the modern era, for hundreds of years, yes. But for example, in the 40s and 50s, there were many men from India and Pakistan and people from the Commonwealth that came over to Britain, because who can get a job the easiest? Men can. So they come over and they slum it in these awful digs, and they're piled in together, and they get a job and they raise money so they can bring their family over. I think that is a standard a standard thing for any form of migrants. You have to go to a place, put down your roots, earn money, so that you can then your family can come over and you can be rejoined with your family. That's why it's men, because often these people are using...
And also they're more robust to make the journey.
Exactly, and often these people are using all of their life savings to get across.
Yeah.
They can't afford to bring the whole family.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole narrative is entirely toxic, and this latest move by the government only fuels that toxicity, because it puts all of the onus on people who are just trying to come to Britain, the vast majority of which are fleeing genuine violence and genuine threats to their lives, who are ultimately just trying to make a better life for themselves.
There are economic migrants, though.
Yes, of course there are, yeah.
But just like some of those that you're describing, wanting to come over here and earn money, and then they can bring their family over. But this narrative that is pervasive at the moment, I always say, first of all, follow the money, and the amount of money that's being made in this country from these migrants as well in the hotels. Look at the profits that are being turned in to all of that. But also, it's the fault of every government for not being robust enough. But if they set up safe, reliable routes, which Shabana Mahmood is apparently going to be talking about later on this week, at least that is a step forward.
Yes, but I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the hotels as well, because this again, the pervasive narrative is that the government is a soft touch and it houses them in hotels. Well, I'm afraid the government outsources the housing of asylum seekers and refugees to private companies, and the reason they put them in hotels is because it is far cheaper than creating other forms of housing to house asylum seekers. So these companies are making, and you can look it up, they've been published, hundreds of millions of pounds in profits at the expense of, yes, the British taxpayer, but most of all the dignity of these people that have to be put in a hotel, often 4 to a room, while a bunch of thugs outside try and lynch them. I mean, it's the entire ecosystem of the immigration system is, I agree with Shabana Mahmood, completely broken, but it is only broken because it is only serving these private companies that are only interested in profit.
And they keep them in the hotels because it's if they move them out, they lose that bed.
Totally, exactly.
And that's worth a lot of money to them. The Guardian for Wednesday, alarm as MI5 names China spy suspects targeting MPs. Have you been approached via LinkedIn?
No, I'm afraid not. I am waiting for the message. Yeah. But actually, this story is. Have you been?
I don't think so. No. I don't check LinkedIn very.
Fair enough. But this story is kind of linked to exactly what we were just talking about. Like, yes, these MPs and contacts of MPs are being targeted by these businesses and headhunters, which again I think just betrays the involvement of business in our politics. These people are representatives of businesses, and they're getting meetings in with our elected members of Parliament, whose entire job, of which they're paid a very generous £90,000 a year, is to represent us and our interests. So I think, even though this is a kind of security article that's saying that the Chinese are being sneaky and they're trying to influence our domestic politics, it shows how vulnerable we are after decades of MPs talking to businesses and business involvement.
Yeah, MPs with a foot in two camps and both hands in the cookie jar.
Exactly,
isn't it, really?
exactly.
The Daily Mail, a few ill-advised remarks and a public school teacher who lost his job and his life. John was fired after saying, "No gum, no gays." Why would you say that? About a trip to Singapore where chewing gum is banned and Malaysia where homosexuality is illegal. Public school teacher accused of making a joke on a school trip was later sacked and killed himself. I mean, that's very sad.
Yes. I think it's, he was a teacher at Marlborough College going on a school trip, and he just made a joke about no gum, no gays, and was fired as a result.
That seems, if that's all he said, that seems a little extreme. And I can't see anything wrong with that.
No, I mean, again, it's just
maybe it's out of context or something, but I don't.
I mean, I think that yes. I mean, it's the Daily Mail, so we must take things with a pinch of salt. But if we're to believe what's on this front page, I think that's overkill. Pardon the pun. Just because it's I think an off-colour remark by someone in authority, and it's clearly snowballed and that's really sad that anybody should commit suicide over something like that. Right, the Daily Telegraph, Britain not ready to defend invasion. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by that, are they? I'm surprised, Petrie, because there are so many patriots across the country who seem entirely willing to take to the streets with the St George flag. I would have thought they'd have been queuing up to join the reserves. They're so patriotic. They care so much about the integrity of Britain.
Yes, I wonder where they'd be if there was an invasion.
Yeah.
Following a year-long inquiry, the Commons Defence Committee said Labour was moving at a glacial pace in face of renewed threats from Russia and China. It claimed Britain was failing to meet its NATO Article 3 defence obligations to maintain and develop individual and collective capacity to resist an armed attack. We've hidden behind our nuclear deterrent for militarily for a long, long time, and we have not got the resources to defend this country at all.
No, it's Dad's army.
It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. They have stripped back the military over and over and over again over the decades that I've had any interest in the work of the military. And they've just cut it, and there's barely anything left of it. It's these poor men and women that are trying to do their very best with, you know.
And that's before you even factor in all the blokes in wrapped in flags, nylon flags, fire hazard. Yeah, you're right. We don't stand a chance.
I don't know what would happen. We'd all have to get our pitchforks out, wouldn't we? That's pretty much it. Another China threat has risen, warns the Speaker. China is not very happy with that.
No, they claim it's tosh.
It's all fake news. It's all fake news. Reeves privately tells Labour MPs, "I'll hit wealthy with a mansion tax in the budget." Now, this the question has always been that you could get people who are property rich and cash poor.
Yes.
And so what they're saying now is that you can pay. It will be added to your death duties.
Really?
Any mansion tax that you owe, they'll add it to your death duties.
It does say as part of this that the Treasury is working on a solution for asset rich and cash poor.
That's their solution.
Oh, that's it. They add it to the death duty.
Yeah. You heard it here first, folks.
Fair enough. Yeah. If anyone listening has a multi-million-pound home, I did see a stat.
No, come on. A lot of people have inadvertently their property has gone up and they live there, and that is their home. It will be very difficult for a lot of older people, but I know that a lot of people go, it doesn't matter. And we've run out of time.
No.
Yes.
Well,
we've run out of time. We've covered the major stories. Cody Darla, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much for having me.
Talk back next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talkback and it is Petrie here, and as the title would suggest, this is your opportunity to have your say. To talk back, literally. It's a full hour of just you and me. And what I want to talk about this morning is the record number of Brits that are moving abroad under Labour. So 257,000 emigrated last year. That is a huge number. It's over a quarter of a million Brits decided to permanently leave these shores. It was estimated to be around 77,000, so way over estimation. Why are so many Brits leaving this country? It may sound like an obvious question, but I'd be really interested to hear why you want to leave Britain. Where would you go? How would you fund your new life? Are you trying to go abroad? Are you trying? I mean, maybe Australia. I've been looking at some of the numbers. 5.5 million British people live permanently abroad, almost 1 in 10 of the UK population. Australia is the #1 place to go and live. I love Australia. I lived there for a year. I couldn't have lived there permanently. It's just too far away from absolutely everything. Spain is next, United States is next, Canada after that, Ireland after that, New Zealand after that, South Africa, and then France. 200,000 have decided to go and live in France. So, have you decided to go and live abroad? Would you like to go and live abroad, but you just don't think it's ever going to happen for you? But why? Why do you want to leave Britain? Why do you want to go and live abroad? And if you have moved abroad, and I know we've got listeners in foreign lands here, has it been everything you hoped it would be? What has been so much better about living where you've chosen to live as opposed to being in the UK? Did you live abroad and then choose to come back to the UK? I'm just fascinated at these enormous numbers of people who are now choosing to permanently leave British shores and go and live somewhere else. So I'd love to hear from you. If you're thinking about it, if you're planning it, if you'd like to do it, where would you go? Why would you go? And what do you think leaving would give you? Give me a call, please. I'd love to talk to you about this. 0344 499 1000. You can also send me a message, text from wherever you are. Text the word talk and then your message to 87222. Have you thought about it? Are you thinking about it seriously? Have you applied somewhere? Quite exciting, isn't it, to go and live somewhere else? I've certainly done that in my life. But it was never going to be, I'd never thought of it as a permanent move. I loved living in Germany, but I never thought that I would be living there for the rest of my life. I loved Berlin, especially, adore Berlin. I could possibly live there. I think I probably could live in Berlin. Something very special about that city. But I don't think I could live anywhere else. And actually, having said that, I don't think I could live anywhere other than London in this country. I've tried living outside of London and didn't really like it very much. So I'm here to stay. For all its faults, and there are many, for all its issues, and there are many, this is my home. And I don't anticipate living anywhere else. What about you? Do you feel like that? Would you want to live somewhere else? 0344 499 1000. Let's talk to David now, who's in Belfast. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Petra. I just had a marvellous weekend in Alicante. My mate sold his house here, right? It wasn't a big house. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you fine.
Yeah. It wasn't a big house, but he sold his house 270,000 in Belfast. Went over there, bought a house for 55,000, 2 bedrooms. So he had no mortgage on his house, so that's 200 and whatever. He had to pay a wee bit of fees and stuff. And it's marvellous. And he's 67 and he gets a state pension. He's worked all his life in the UK. And we had a ball.
Really?
We had a ball over there, you know.
So he managed to take profit of around, 220 grand. So he's got that in his...
He puts that in the bank. That'll get him 5-6 grand a year in interest. He's getting a state pension, from the UK. He's living over there, happy as Larry. I hate talking in drink terms, but it's like €2.50 for a pint.
Wow.
So, and his bills are like 30 quid a month, for electric and water.
And what's this house like? Is it very basic? Does it have central heating, aircon, stuff like that?
It's got aircon. It's got a paddling pool. Not a paddling pool. One of them pools you sit in outside.
All right, hot tub type thing.
Yeah, hot tub. And then he has a private pension as well. And he's loving it.
So his money just is going further.
Pardon?
His money goes further there.
Well, the state pension is actually paying for his whole lifestyle out there. But he did pay into the system in the UK.
Yeah.
So the state pension, he can't spend that, and he's 220,000 in the bank, giving him. He could do loads of stuff.
Are you tempted, David?
Pardon?
Are you tempted to follow him out there?
Actually, I was out there on Thursday night and I stayed the Friday. Now, this is the stupidest thing ever. I'm a smoker, right? And listen, in the UK, pay £15 for a packet of cigarettes.
Wow, I didn't know it's that much now. Wow.
It is £15. So I went out there and I bought 200 cigarettes. They were about £45, right? And I brought 400 cigarettes home. It cost me nothing to stay out there.
Yeah.
Because I am a heavy smoker. So the 400 cigarettes will do me for the next 2 weeks. I'll save about £110 each week.
Wow.
I go there every month, and it costs me nothing. If I'm staying with a friend, obviously, but it costs me basically nothing to go there, and like £48 return flights.
Wow.
So, it's madness. It's madness.
Why don't you move out there?
It's going to happen.
It is?
Yeah, but what I'll do, I'll keep one here and I'll have one over there. But, the cost of living over there is so cheap. Like, I say, Petra, I know you're not an alcoholic and you don't drink, right?
No.
But for a pint of beer, it's like €2.30, which is about £2. Anywhere in the UK, it's £5, £4. You go to a working man club, you might get it cheaper. But no, that was an amazing weekend, you know. So
yeah, I mean, it's hardly surprising that people want to go and live. I don't know how has he been able to do that, David, given Brexit and all of that?
Well,
is that because he bought property there?
This is the thing. If you live in Belfast, you've dual passports.
Oh, of course.
So you can have an Irish
yeah.
and a British passport, right?
You're really lucky.
Now, you know, it's that's the way it rocks and rolls, but you can do it. But what has happened to a lot of Brits out there who just have the UK passport, they have now come home, and Spain is suffering from that. A lot of bars, and we were in a lot of bars, and we were talking about Brexit and all that, and it says Brexit made a lot of people sell up and go home. So
because they're only entitled to 90 days at a time or something, is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
But if you live in Northern Ireland, because obviously we didn't get out, we were still in the sanction zone, you know. But there's so many Brit houses up, and the thing is, Norway, Sweden, Switzerland are banning all these Brit houses that are for nothing, you know. I mean, you're buying a 2-bedroom house with a rooftop terrace, maybe a jacuzzi at the front for 55 to 60 to 70,000. I'm talking in sterling.
That's affordable, isn't it? Right, unlike the properties here.
Yeah, that's really affordable. And my mate did that. He bought a 2-bedroom house, rooftop terrace.
Very nice.
55,000.
And was the weather good when you went? Or was the weather good when you went, or is it?
Oh, the weather was great. So it was like a good summer, and that was only last Thursday. Now there was a bit of rain at the night, you know, but you know, but so many Brits have had to sell their houses at home. And the bar staff in all the bars we went to says Brexit was not good. Now, I thought Brexit was good, but the people are selling their houses for buttons over there now.
Yeah, because they've got they can't stay, can they?
No, can't stay. You got to go in and go out, you know. So, no, I think, and as the mate did, because we have dual passports, he went out, sold his house here, 270, bought one for 55, puts whatever in the bank, gets his pension.
I mean, it sounds pretty good. Just a question: Did you vote for? Did you vote for Brexit?
Yes, I did.
That is so unfair because you voted for it and you've got dual.
House in Spain.
and you've got dual passport.
Yes.
So you didn't lose anything.
No, lost none.
And yet you made other people lose stuff.
No, I didn't. I voted for Brexit, and the way it worked in Northern Ireland, we lost the vote here. So the Brexit was 47% of people voted for Brexit, 53% voted against Brexit. You know, but I still, because I live in Northern Ireland, I can have an Irish passport.
That's brilliant. I mean, that is so good for you, and I wish you well. Let me know if you buy somewhere in Alicante. Sounds like you had a brilliant, absolutely brilliant time. are you thinking of living abroad, and why? I mean, that's a pretty compelling argument, isn't it? That if you can, then why wouldn't you? I mean, you make a heck of a profit, go and buy somewhere cheaper overseas, and the beer's cheap, the food's cheap, the bills are cheap. It sounds like a no-brainer, doesn't it, really? But would you really want to live in another country? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Quick break, back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there. Good morning. Hello. Yeah, there you are. Good morning to you. It is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And we're talking about the record number of Brits that are moving abroad. 257,000, that's over 250,000 Brits emigrated last year, against what was a predicted number of around 77,000. So a huge increase in the numbers of people leaving the country. It is really interesting that these numbers are increasing again. I mean, the trend has been over 200 years, right? The Brits have always moved and gone and lived in different countries. But the trend is now rising again. So more and more people are deciding to leave the country. As we talk about more and more people deciding to come into the country, we are deciding to leave the country. And I'm just interested to know why. I mean, it may seem like an obvious question. Oh, the economy is bad. It's miserable here, isn't it? I mean, everything is miserable. My sister's staying with me at the moment, and she said, I've got a great idea for a phone-in for you for later. And I said, what's that? And she said, why is everything so rubbish at the moment? Although she didn't use the word rubbish. And it's true. We're all feeling it. It is miserable. Absolutely miserable. So if you're dreaming of leaving this country and going somewhere else, give me a call. Tell me where you're thinking of going and why you're thinking of going there. And I know we have expats listening to this programme, so give me a call. I'd love to know if it's been everything that you wanted it to be, whether it's you've ever thought about coming back to the UK. If you are thinking of going, where are you thinking of going? The most popular place for us to leave permanently is Australia. The second most popular place is Spain, and then the United States, and then Canada. So where are you thinking of moving to, and why? And what do you hope it will bring you? Look, we just had David from Belfast there talking about his friend who moved to Alicante, who is, it sounds like, living the dream, absolutely living the dream. He's got his pension, he's got savings, he's got interest on savings. He's been able to buy an apartment out or a house out there with a roof terrace for the 2 bedrooms for 50 odd grand cash. And he's got a dual passport from Northern Ireland, so he can stay there. He's not being forced to come back. Brits abroad are having, in Europe now, because of Brexit, having to sell their properties for dirt cheap and come back to the UK. If you are one of them that had to come back to the UK because of Brexit, I'd love to hear from you as well. What's it been like coming back? I wouldn't want to live in another country. I mean, the only place I could live is probably Berlin, but I'm a bit settled now, a bit set in my ways. So give me a call, 0344 499 1000. Kevin has called from Hull. Hello, Kevin.
Good morning, Petrie.
Good morning. Where would you move to?
Probably Berlin, to be honest.
I love Berlin.
It's so clean, and the people are so respectful.
They're gorgeous. I absolutely love the Berliners. I think they're great. I mean, Germans, on the whole, I like. I really do like them. I enjoy them.
Yes, if I had blonde hair and blue eyes, I'd be very welcome. Sorry,
I've got blue eyes, and I can go blonde. So
I've had to unfortunately switch the telly off to speak to you, but did he put it on pause? Yeah, I might have put it on pause, so I'll listen to myself. What time did the dogs get you up this morning?
7:30. Why do I look tired? I didn't get to sleep until about 5 either. So I'll move to Berlin, but I'll leave the boys here. No, I would never do that. I would never do that.
No. We would. On TV, we would. No, of course we would.
Oh, I love them. I can't be angry with them either because they're so cute. But so you would move to Berlin. Why though? What do you not like about Hull that you think you'll find in another country?
I didn't say I came from Hull.
Well, it says Kevin from Hull.
That's right. Yeah, I live in Hull. I live in Hull. I don't.
Where are you? Where do you hail from?
Sorry.
Where do you come from?
I come from a small town called Barrow-in-Furness.
Oh, lovely. But why would you move out of the UK?
Well, I heard a couple that came from Portugal, and they live out there. And there's a town out there in Portugal called, unofficially, Mini England. So all the married couple are like hairdressers, boutiques, carpet fitters, and all that. They've all moved out there. They've settled, and I don't know the Portugal name of the village, but it's actually called locally Mini England, and I think that's really nice.
But aren't you just replacing then? I mean, why go and live in a foreign country and not become part of the culture? We accuse migrants of not doing that here, right?
No, I think they do become part of the country, but I think the thing is it's the personality, the repertoire, maybe not even speaking the language, which is a massive problem. I mean, you live in Berlin and you can't speak German. You know, it's like the only German I know is Ich bin Spitfire. You know, it's not good. But the thing is, they're only young, so they will adapt. They will adapt.
But we do. It's interesting, though, because we do, you've just listed all of the reasons why Brits abroad tend to flock together, right? They've got the same sense of humour, they've got the same cultural references, they've got the same language, they've got the same, you know, tastes and morality and all of those things. But isn't that exactly why migrants who come to this country do the same thing? That you know, that they will gather, in groups of people.
How do you define a migrant? What is a migrant? You know, is it somebody that wants to come to this country on a ferry boat or an aeroplane or on a dinghy? You know, yeah,
but the British people that go abroad, they're emigrating. They become migrants in that country.
Yes,
and they then gather in area, which I completely understand, right? I totally get it, but I'm just trying to. It's just an interesting parallel that it's when it's Brits abroad, we're expats, and we gather in these expat communities, and that's perfectly acceptable. But when people from different countries do that here, like Chinatown, for example, or you get a lot of people from Africa that might live in the same area, and that's for the same reasons that we do as Brits abroad, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, for one, I've never been to Chinatown, and I've never been to any African, Jamaican town that does lovely food. You know, I'm a bit of a stick in the dump. And
I mean, there are definitely pockets in London, right, where you get, you know, a Jamaican community or you get an Indian community, for the same reasons that, you know, in Portugal, this place is called Little Britain or whatever it's called, because the Brits will flock together because they have all those things in common. And I just think it's exactly the same when we accuse foreigners coming here of ghettoisation, that actually it's just interesting that that's probably what we do overseas, right?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think the thing is, what happens in England and London, although I've never been to London.
Have you never been to London, your capital city?
No, well, I might have been. What's those lions? The cast iron lions? I might have been 2-year-old.
That's on Trafalgar Square.
Yeah, that's the only time I've been.
Wow.
Don't remember it. And
you don't fancy London?
Well, I live in a city.
Yeah, true.
And I come from a small town.
Yeah.
And it's the hustle and bustle. It's like, I don't know how to explain. When you go Christmas shopping, I just pick up on all this stress and, you know, this, I would say, negativity.
I agree. I never go Christmas shopping.
I just cannot do it.
No,
you know, after a while, I'm like, I'm getting a headache, I'm getting nausea, and I just want to get out.
Yeah,
you know?
I get it. I completely get it. I don't go into town in the weekends.
There's my bank card. Just get all the presents. I'm going out for a smoke. You know, and unfortunately, that is me. And and I think people that leave the country and want to go abroad, God bless them, because the usual British person is a good person. You know, we could live abroad and we could adjust. We could become like
There's quite a lot of criminals that ran off to Spain, isn't there? British. We're not all good. We're not all good.
No, don't ever ask me Dad that question.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right.
You know,
yeah,
right.
I know about your past.
Don't ever. Yeah, they did, but they wanted to come back. You know, or they got caught.
I think there's a lot of really great Brits that have gone to live abroad, but I also think there's probably some scumbags who've done it as well. Kevin, lovely to talk to you. Always is. Thank you very much indeed for calling in. Well, listen, I can't offer you a life of living in Las Vegas, but I can offer you, animate the chance to win a trip to Las Vegas. How about that? Your journey kicks off in style with exclusive lounge access at Heathrow, followed by an upper-class comfort flight with lie flat beds and top-tier service all the way to Vegas. When you land, you'll check into a luxurious spa villa for 4 nights. Cheer from the stands as the Las Vegas Raiders take on the Kansas City Chiefs, and we're also throwing in $5,000 in cash to enjoy while you're there. So clear your calendar, January 2nd to the 7th, 2026, because this could be the best start to your new year ever. Do you fancy that? Stay listening and watching to find out how you enter.
21 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text TALK to 83338. Text at £2 plus standard network rate. Bill payer's permission required. Or call 03434239761. Calls are charged at standard rate. All entries must be received by the 28th of November at 4 p.m. This is a network promotion. Run across TalkSport, Virgin Radio UK and Talk. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock. And I just want to remind you that there is a podcast available, an hour-long podcast available of the programme if you've missed anything. And that will be available at the end of the programme. So you just go wherever you want, wherever you get your podcast from, and look for Petrie Hosken, which is me, and the podcast will be there. So you can have a listen to it. Please go and have a listen and a click, because the boss pays attention to this sort of stuff. So just click on it, okay? Thank you. You'll be doing me a favour. So just go to your app store and click on the Petrie Hosken podcast. And if you'd like to have a listen to it, I hope you enjoy it. We're talking about Brits abroad, and that is why a significant number of British people decided to leave British shores for good last year. Over 250,000 people decided to quit Britain, and that is way higher than the predicted 77,000 people that was estimated by the Office for National Statistics. This is a huge number of Brits deciding to quit these shores permanently, and I just wonder why they're doing it. So if you're planning it, let me know. If you've already done it, I'd love to hear from you. Is the grass greener on the other side? Do you wish you'd done it sooner? I mean, I guess a lot of people quit the UK to retire, right? So they're going out you know, they've done all their work, they've brought up their family. But it'd be also interesting to hear from you if you're thinking about it as a younger family, and planning to go there forever, and why. Is it value for money? We've heard this already about Alicante, that the value for property, the value for money is extraordinary, and the cost of living seems to be a heck of a lot cheaper. I mean, who wouldn't want that, particularly when the weather's nicer as well most of the time. So are you thinking of quitting this country either to retire or to go and work? I think if I had my time again, I quite fancy Canada. I think I'd go to Canada. I'd certainly try and get a broadcasting job in Canada. And I'm too old now, they wouldn't want me. But I think that Canada seems to be a fabulous country, and the Canadians seem to be just fabulous people. So I would go to Canada, I think. I used to think America, but given what's happened there recently, I don't think I'll even go there on holiday again. But Canada, I think. It's not too far away. It's not as far away as Australia. I speak the language, sort of. And I think we get on. I think me and Canada would really get on. Mooj has said, I will be living permanently in the Gambia, West Africa next year. I've already spent 17 years there. To be honest, there's nothing here in the UK. Good show, Mark in Northants. Well, as long as you keep listening, Mark, because there's one thing good in the UK, and that's this programme, surely. I'm fishing. The Gambia. I've never been to West Africa. I'd love to go. Mark says that. Andy says, most Brits and Irish, which I am, who move to Spain do so with their retirement and their ability to support themselves. We get no benefit payments from Spain or wherever, but the objection to immigrants to the UK is that many of them cannot support themselves and get benefits, and they're a drain to the country. Oh, I'm not doubting that at all, but I am just trying to draw a parallel. When Brits go and live abroad, we tend to think of ourselves as expats and gather in a community of Brits. But if somebody else, if the French do that here, or the Jamaicans do that here, then they're accused of not integrating or not becoming part of... I was literally just saying that. I don't doubt what you're saying at all. I completely agree with that. So that's from Andy. Malcolm says, we moved to the Canaries prior to Brexit. Sunshine, beautiful temperatures, lots of walks for us and the dogs. The cost of living is brilliant. Would we move back to the UK? No. We've learned Spanish, love mixing with the culture and avoiding the tourist coastal centres, and we're in our late 60s. But would you have gone there as a younger person? I think it's really interesting, because when you come to retirement age, you can kind of make those decisions, can't you? You can pick and choose a bit more, and you're already quite established. You've already, you know, I'm not saying had your life, because that's obviously painfully young, being in your late 60s, she says. But it is really a decision of retirement rather than a decision to... I wonder what the age group is, actually, of this 250,000 who left the country. They can't all have been pensioners. Particularly, you can't go and live in Europe now as a Brit because of Brexit without lots of hoops to jump through and stuff. So listen, give me a call. Where would you go? If I was young again, I'd try Canada, I think. I think I've never been, but I think I'd really like it. So where would you go? And maybe you're somebody who's emigrated here from Canada or from France or from, you know, it'd be lovely to hear from you as well, why you've chosen to leave a country that I think sounds great and come to live here as well. There must have been a big decision made. I fancy Britain because... And as Brits, we probably take it for granted. So give me a call, 03444991000. Kevin is in Basingstoke. It's the morning of the Kevins. Good morning, Kevin. Where would you move to and why? Kevin, are you there?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, I mean, can I say one? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello? Obviously you
can't.
can't.
Right. Can I just say one thing about something? Yeah, I can. You read out something from somebody who said that immigrants that come here, they just claim benefits. Well, that's not true, because if you come here on a work visa, so that is an immigrant, or you're a student.
I've just deleted it because I've just deleted it.
They're not entitled to housing or benefits.
No, I know, but that wasn't the point that he was making. So it was quite specific. I've just deleted it. Otherwise, I would have mentioned that. But yeah, well, he was just drawing parallels.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So why would you want to leave this? Why would you want to leave this country?
Right. I've always, what I wanted to do, I wanted to sell my house and buy something a lot smaller and buy a house. I watched quite a few videos on YouTube about people moving to Europe, and it just looks amazing. And I've always wanted to do it. And I went to Romania last year because I've got a lot of friends in Romania. I stayed in Bucharest, and also we went to the mountains, stayed in the mountains for a few days. It was so nice. I mean, and the people are really friendly. Quite a lot of people, well, all my friends speak English, even though they're Romanian. But a lot of young people in Romania, they do speak English, and it just seems so nice. And the weather is amazing. So I always thought that, you know, when I've actually retired, even though I'm nowhere near retirement age, and it was always something I wanted to do. But now, because of Brexit, you can still do it, but you have to have an income of over £25,000 a year. So if
and do you have to earn that? Do you have to earn that in Romania?
I've got an income of 25,000.
Yeah. Well, how come you've retired, Kevin?
No, you don't have to. If you want to go there and retire, if you retire there and you don't want to work, you have to have an income of 25,000 a year.
Right.
You have to prove that you've got £25,000 coming in every year through pensions or.
Right.
Or if you rent out a property or whatever you do, you have to have £25,000 a year income. Or no, I think it's more than that. It's just over. I'm not quite sure now. It was a while since I looked, but yeah. So now you can't do it.
But you've retired. You've retired in this country.
I know a lot of people on this station, like Nigel Farage.
Yeah. What about him?
Yeah. I'm not retirement age, but I have retired.
How come you've managed to do that?
At 45.
That's young. You must have been very successful.
Well, I mean, I had a good job. I worked really hard. Yeah. Not very, but, comfortable.
Yeah.
But, so now, to move abroad, it's a lot harder. And I mean, I couldn't afford to move. I haven't got an income of 25,000, so I couldn't do it anyway. But yeah, so my dream has been shattered, really. And I think a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people thought, it would be great if we left the EU and we would still be able to do things, but we can't. And moving to Europe now is sort of, I mean, if you're younger, I think, you can't really, it's not easy to move to Europe if you're younger, but it is easier. If you're very well qualified, if you've been to university, you've got a degree or whatever, there's so many opportunities open to you in maybe Australia or New Zealand or Canada. If you're a nurse or something, or an engineer or something that they really need, it's quite easy to move abroad. And I think a lot of young people are doing it because there's not really too much opportunity here. I mean, even though it is expensive to buy a house here, but it's also really expensive in Australia as well.
Yeah,
Canada,
it is. Yeah.
New Zealand as well. It's really it's hard everywhere, really, isn't it?
I think it is hard everywhere. I mean, in Romania, apparently the properties are really cheap.
For a lot of people,
but Romania is quite cheap, isn't it? But if you were to buy a property there.
Yeah, Romania. My friend had a flat. Yeah, my friend had those sort of communist blocks.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of those in Romania. I mean, they don't look very attractive from the outside, but they're fine inside. They're sturdy houses, and they had a 2-bedroom flat, and it was going for 60. My friend had it, his family was selling it, £60,000 in Bucharest.
Wow.
I mean, you can't buy flats in capital cities in Europe for £60,000, can you?
No, that is
and
good.
I don't know if have you been to Romania before?
Do you know, I haven't
really
been to Romania. I'd love to go. It's an ex-communist state, isn't it? And has been through a lot of trials and tribulations. But what's interesting to me at that part of the world actually is Poland, because the wealth that's in Poland now since it joined the EU is quite. That's a real example of what benefit the European Union has done for a country. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Poland's doing really amazing. I mean, I did hear it won't be long, and their economy will be as big as ours in sort of the next 8 years or something like that. They're doing really well.
Really, really well. And a lot of Polish people are going back there now.
Shared house.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I think a lot of people that have moved here, they don't really feel that welcome anymore, do they? No. Which I don't blame them. Even though, they might not face hostility, but when they watch the news, Matt, it's not very. They probably feel like it's not home for them anymore. So yeah, a lot of them are going back, and their countries are doing better than ours.
Yeah, they really are. Poland has done remarkably well since it joined the European Union, and is. The economy is doing brilliantly, and like I said, a lot of people now go, right, great, well, going back now. I've got to take a quick break, but I will be back in just a moment.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talk and this is Talk Back, and it's Petrie here with you until the top of the hour. You mentioned Canada, and someone from Canada reaches back. So thank you for listening all the way in Canada. I moved to Canada in the 1980s, and it really is one of the strangest and strongest emotions you can feel. But I feel it now more when in my 70s. 99% of everything and everyone and every emotion you've ever known is in another place. Yet your children and grandchildren know nothing of those things. You live a life as if you're watching it as a film. You see your friends and relatives getting married, having children and dying in the UK via technology. The little baby I saw of my neighbours when I left the UK is now 50 years old, but they seem to go from baby to 50 in the blink of an eye. And when you die, do you have your funeral here in Canada with 1% of my relatives and friends, or do I go to the UK? But this would mean that my closest relatives would not be involved. It really is a very strange emotion to feel. And that's from Jill. That is so beautifully written, Jill. Honestly, that is absolutely stunning bit of prose. I love that. Mike in Newcastle says, is it not atrociously cold in Canada? I say again, from Mike in Newcastle. Isn't it atrociously cold in Newcastle? It probably is, but I like the cold. I'm better in the cold than the heat. I'm not good with heat. I'm not good with that at all. And Joanna says, I would leave if I could. People are leaving the UK because we're being governed by persons that are sucking the life out of us, both financially and emotionally. Anyone who's worked hard is going to lose what they've worked for. Free speech is being removed and our culture is on the line. And that's from Joanna in Salisbury. Well, 250,000 people left last year. Joseph has called from here in London. Morning, Joseph.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, would you move?
How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm brilliant, thank you very much.
Good. I'm very pleased to hear that. It's getting cold, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice dry cold, though, isn't it? It's not that bad.
Yeah, a dry cold, but I've had to put the heat.
Canada is cold, but again, it's like...
It's a dry cold?
It's a dry cold. Sweden's dry cold. And they're actually quite nice.
Yeah, Siberia's.
As long as it's not wet, it's okay.
Yeah, I went to Siberia and everybody said, oh, it's absolutely minus ridiculous numbers there, which it is. But it was a dry cold, so it didn't get into your bones like it does.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind that. Yeah. So you live here in London and you've got a place overseas?
In Spain, in La Manga Club, which is near Murcia, Alicante, just below Alicante. I've been here for 30 years. And we'd spend, I'm not going to say after, I mean, when my kids were growing up, we'd have every holiday there, so we'd be there 3-4 months of the year. And then now we do like a week there, 3 weeks back in the UK, a week there, 3 weeks back in the UK. And the Manga Club itself is like a golf, tennis resort, football, whatever, and it's 80% British.
Right.
You know, and it's like when you go outside of the complex and you're in like a small Spanish villages and all that type of thing. But what I was saying to your guy is, it's like when you're sitting around the Manga Club, you hear everybody slagging off England like it's the worst place on the planet. And I listened to them, and then a few years ago, there's about 6 of them couples, they're all living out there properly full time, just slagging off England for everything. And then I said, do you realise just down the road there's like boats coming across from Algiers or wherever? We even have people arriving in the Manga Club, and then the police have to come and escort people for dinghies. And I go, in Madrid at the moment they're having demonstrations for, you know, same demonstrations we have. In Barcelona they have like that. And they look at me and they go, have you been in the supermarket here recently? Because it's like just silly things like, you know, I don't know, say like a small Marmite's like £6.
Yeah.
I go, it's bloody and like that. And I go, oh, I get it. So you live in Spain, you don't follow any Spanish politics on news at all, which, good, why would you? And you still follow English news and just completely slate the country like nothing's ever happening anywhere else in the world.
That's just so blinkered, right?
Exactly.
That is trying to sort of say that the grass is greener when actually it probably isn't. It's probably pretty much the same colour.
You know what? It isn't. I did South America last year, and trust me, I went to Brazil. They slagged off the Argentinians and I got to Argentinians, they're slagging off the Brazilians for their economy. You get to Chile is saying Argentina and Brazil done this, and it's like you're looking always someone to blame for something.
That is a very good observation, Joseph, actually. And it is interesting, like I have been saying, that we criticise people for gathering in their, with their own people, if you like. But we do exactly the same when we're overseas. And we don't, there isn't a lot of cultural sort of integration and stuff. I mean, in Saudi Arabia, what do you think happens there with the expats?
What do you reckon?
Well, I reckon that they're not paying much attention to the cultures of Saudi Arabia. I think they're setting up their own, little Britons out there.
Yeah.
That's what I think, and then complaining about migrants in the UK.
Yeah. So can I also add? So I'm black.
Okay.
My parents arrived there. I was born in England. My 5 brothers and 4 sisters were born in Jamaica.
Nice.
We arrived there in the 1950s, or they did. Everybody has got their passport, their papers, their everything. It was a choice of my dad that we moved to after trying, say, America and some other countries. He arrived in England, loved it, and said to us, year by year, brought another kid over and my mum and all like that. And that's how it all built up. But basically, I didn't know this. But he actually said to all my brothers and sisters, by the way, we're never going back to Jamaica. Make England your own.
Yeah. And
literally, so we're all integrated, married. I've never had an issue. And, so I get really angry when I hear people say, oh, it's this, that, and the other, where I think, you know what? How come I haven't experienced it? Why haven't I experienced it? My blinkers, because I just don't experience any of these problems,
Because, I love the attitude of your parents. This is home now. Get on with it.
Yeah,
right? So you've got to.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, you've got to fit in.
And a lot of people do believe they're going back one day somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So they don't,